Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Grind. My name is Kelly Johnson, your fun and friendly host. We are on episode 36, the very best one yet. Shout out to my podcast network, Ambiguous Production, and fellow pods on there, including You Mad Bro, the Sam Bustle podcast, and GDP, Goal Driven Professionals. We are currently in the works, or soon to be on SoundCloud and iHeartRadio. Also transitioning to a new website, so stay tuned. So first things first, if this is your first episode with us or your 10th one that you're listening to or episode 36, I recently got a new mixer for the pod and it's working out great. So give us a thumbs up for the better audio quality, hopefully, or tweet or DM me on what you like and things you want to hear. Or I guess, yeah. So now on to the best part of our pod, talking to a new special guest to share their story. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Will Schultz. Will is an outstanding educator, not only in geometry and AP stats high school teacher, but also coaches boys and girls tennis and bowling at the varsity level, well-known tennis official, and even shares his knowledge for the love of the sport in other areas such as investing. So he currently lives and works in the Las Vegas area. Overall, great person to have on our show today. So welcome, Will. Woo, woo!
Happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you on, Will. Super great. I guess maybe first to start, do you want to give our listeners a little intro on yourself? So who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Will Schultz, as Kelly just said. I'm 26 years old, and I live in Henderson, Nevada. It's technically a suburb, but it's not really. It's kind of meshed together with Las Vegas now. And I'm originally from Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is how I know Kelly. I graduated from Waukesha West High School, and I got a math degree, actually a secondary mathematics degree from Whitewater back in 2016. So go Warhawks. And I had to get a minor, and I originally was going to choose my minor in physics, but basically my counselor that I only had for about the first year said it would add a year at least to my degree. So I was like, okay, I'll choose something useful. And I said coaching, and she's like, well, when are you ever going to do that? Which I do that quite a bit. And but during my time at Whitewater, I was the club tennis president, and I got really into teaching and just loved all of it. I actually went down to Jamaica and taught there for a month, and I still am a teacher at Del Sol Academy in Las Vegas.
Very nice. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty fun.
Yeah, I guess maybe one of my first questions right away, what drove you to, you just mentioned both of us know each other from Waukesha, Wisconsin. What drove you to West Coast, so Nevada, and taking a teaching position out there?
I actually, getting back from Jamaica, I was student teaching at Mukwonago High School, so go Indians there. But I did an online recruiting fair, and I was just always interested in maybe just not living in Wisconsin for a year, after living in Jamaica for only a month. But still, I was like, okay, I think there's more to life, or there's a different life, not saying a better or worse life than living in Wisconsin and living in Waukesha or anywhere around that area. But I know I could always fall back on my parents being there because I've never really lived within or like out of an hour of Waukesha, because Whitewater is only a 45-minute drive, or 30 minutes if you want to get a speeding ticket in Eagle or something. But I don't know that from firsthand experience. But yeah, I did that online recruiting fair, and I got a couple job offers from Hawaii. There was one in Anchorage, Alaska, a couple in LA, and then Las Vegas. And I kind of just looked around. I actually had a job interview at O'Hare Airport with a recruiter from the Department of Hawaii, because they actually oversee all of the islands, all 8 islands education plans. Basically, they hire all the teachers. It's not like, county or island specific. It's the whole state. So they need a lot of teachers. And the sad part is they do have a massive teacher shortage there just because of the pay. And it's not bad. I think it was about 48 to 52,000, which sounds enticing as a first year educator. It's like, oh, 50 grand right off the bat. But then you got to worry about where to live, on Maui or in Honolulu or somewhere like that. And you're going to pay $2,000-$3,000 a month just to live in paradise, which that'd be great, But at the same time, I also like having money on the side to go places like that, to go on vacation. So ultimately chose Las Vegas, and I didn't even know they didn't have state income tax, so that was a nice little bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And my first year, actually, there was a signing bonus as well. So that was pretty unique. It was for math and science teachers, so the STEM fields, because there's just such a shortage in America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've talked I've had a couple of previous guests on the Daily Grind. Taylor Bond mentioning the importance of, or even Aaron McGinnis talking about the importance of math and STEM. Those studies growing in today's like education realm. So I guess maybe I could rewind back or before your college days. Will, what drove you to being not just an educator, but also, help teach math?
So back in like 7th grade, I would say at Central Middle School in Waukesha, I was just in a regular, 7th grade math class. I never really did much honors or anything like that. And I was just helping out a buddy. And then the teacher's like, "Oh, you did a really good job teaching them." And I'm like, "I guess I did." And just kind of right there, it kind of just helped me establish what I wanted to be in life. And that's why it's always weird for me to give people life advice as far as like what job to find. Cause like I don't want to say I'm spoiled, but it was pretty easy for me to figure out that I liked helping people that much and figure out a way I could help people as being a teacher of some sort. And I kind of narrowed it down to either math or physics just because I loved physics in high school. But the one problem with being physics is you basically have to take all the physics classes and the math classes in order to take the physics classes.
Oh
And then all
wow.
the people you're taking those classes with are going to go, get really good, 70, 80, $90,000 a year STEM jobs, or, they'll be a researcher, or they'll even go and work at go get a master's somewhere and go teach there as well. And I'm sitting there thinking, do I want to do all that work just to be a high school teacher? And I never changed my degree per se. I just changed it from physics to math as soon as I started, and I don't regret a moment. But yeah, just helping out people, and that's what I like about coaching because it's just cool, especially in tennis. Everybody says, "Oh, it's really easy. You just hit the ball back and forth." I'm like, yeah, tennis is actually really easy sport until you have to play somebody that knows what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's rough.
Yeah.
So, because I have students that come out, they'll be like, "Oh, tennis is so easy. We played in PE all the time," and you go out there and they're, just standing at the service line, like pancaking, gripping it. I'm like, "Yep, you're pretty good for these people." But then when you teach them topspin and slice, it's just a whole different world, and it's just, I don't know. It's always been exciting for me to see that light bulb go off, or turning on, and then figuring out ways that you can help out that student more than just like, here's a cheat, hit this tennis ball the exact same way. I don't know. It's just there's always a different puzzle.
Definitely, yeah. You hit the nail on the head there in regards to coaching is just another, I would say, animal. It's and even doing it in tennis, which is great. You're helping someone not just in the classroom but outside the classroom. I think tennis is a really great fit for you, and you're helping inspire a lot of different students out there, or even people just young adults or any of our listeners. To be honest, really have a great story to share. Well, so yeah, maybe perfect transition to that tennis area. So what maybe first and foremost, how did you become interested in tennis?
When I was about 3 or 4 years old, I was growing up literally across the street from Waukesha West High School, and they had brand new courts because it was a brand new school in 1993, which is when I was born. And my mom just take me over there because she used to play back in the 60s in high school before Title IX. So they basically had to go make their own uniforms, find their own courts, find their own court time, find their own opponents to play and stuff like that because they didn't have the funding. So I don't know. It's just I don't want to say that was like a driving force or like, oh, I wanted to play tennis because of mom's past. But I don't know. My mom always liked playing tennis, and it just made me, I think, enjoy it that much more.
Mm-hmm.
And I just continued playing and playing through high school. I still try and play. All the courts are locked up due to this coronavirus. But
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just try to play as often as I can. But if I'm not playing, I'm either watching it, on the TV, or I'm coaching it, or I even affiliate it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Keith, you're our first I'm sorry, you're not our first tennis player on the podcast, but you're our first
That'd be surprising for you.
yeah. Uh background's a little bit in tennis, no big deal. But you're first tennis official on the Daily Grind, which is awesome. So maybe do you want to talk or share with our listeners maybe a little bit about how people tennis officiate? What's the importance of your role on the court? Just kind of like maybe a small little background on it. I mean, you could probably talk a
Yeah,
ton
actually,
on it.
so back in 2012, there was a tennis tournament going on at Higher that our friend Beef was tournament directing. And I was like, oh, well, I need to go over there because, my friend Beef goes to Whitewater, so he's going to know what classes I need to sign up for, know, the special professors, or know not to sign up for a 7:30 a.m. Friday class, which I guess I still did. I was just sitting there, and one of the tennis officials was like, hey, do you know tennis? And I'm like, yeah, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know every single rule, but I know it well enough to like help. And she's like, oh, well, can you, like help out in this court for like a minute, just because I know you're probably not biased. You don't even know these two players. And I didn't. And I just went on and helped. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I played in tournaments growing up, and I never really thought about the officials because, it's tennis. You don't technically need the officials. Like it's not like football or even like soccer where you need somebody there calling the fouls or spotting the ball or spotting where the penalty is and stuff like that. So I just never really gave it a thought. But then I started talking to the official named Jan, and she was like, yeah, you can do this, and you pick your own weekends, you pick your own days, you make $15 an hour. And I'm like, wow, that's twice as much than I make at Famous Footwear, which is where I worked for a few years. I was like, that sounds pretty cool. And the whole picking your own schedule. And I mean, honestly, it's just you don't really need that much of a love for the game, but it just helps. Just knowing, I'm not going out there just to make, $15 an hour, just going out there, watch tennis. It's like, okay, I'm there to help improve the sport, help talk to people, help them know, these are the rules. This is what we're expecting, and then make the sport kind of a better place. And I've done that frequently. I started just as a junior official in the Waukesha area, and then I, kept on doing it, worked state. And then I actually got what's called an ITA certification, so the Intercollegiate Tennis Association.
Mm-hmm.
And I started officiating literally at 19 years old, college tennis matches. So that was pretty fun. You're officiating these guys that, 21, 22 years old. And, you got the, enthusiastic coaches there that, every single point, they just have this intensity. You always want to match, not officiating wise, but playing. And you're like, okay, this is like really cool. It's really eye opening. And I was able to go around, Wisconsin, Green Bay, Marquette. And then I was able to actually work the D1 indoor national tournament a couple years back in Madison.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do it now in Las Vegas, and I'll go up to like Utah, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Arizona, even California, just working all of that because they'll pay for your airfare, or they'll help with the airfare. They'll help with any travel reimbursements. And yeah, I mean, it's a great time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've traveled a lot. I was gonna ask all the places that you've been, which is great for officiating. Um, I mean, like right now with the whole COVID situation going on, obviously tennis has been postponed. And I just saw an article saying that Wimbledon, they're most likely gonna make an announcement for them to postpone that event for 2020. But yeah, you've been tennis officiating, Will, for it's been like 8 years now.
Yep.
Very cool. That's great. And then you started, like you mentioned, I think it's really cool that you were officiating the ITAs as a 19-year-old. I mean, it's great because then you're sharing your knowledge. But another thing, too, like as a tennis official, you didn't have to like play in college, or you didn't have to be a coach.
Oh, no, I definitely was not good enough at all to make the
Mm-hmm.
tennis team.
But yeah, if people are interested in becoming an official, it's pretty straightforward. It's not super difficult in regards to fighting. Just reach out to someone that's a local tennis USTA volunteer. Like what would be the steps if someone were interested in possibly becoming?
You could just ask somebody in your league if they know, but worst case or best case scenario, just type in USTA officiating online, and you need a USTA membership, which I think I bought a lifetime a few years ago for like $250, which is, and it's totally worth it. But I think it's like $30 or $40 a year, so you do need a membership. But that's really all that you need to like become a USTA official, to just sign up for the process. And then there'll be a test, which is, it's open book with the Friend at Court, which is online. You can download the PDF for the Friend at Court, preferably, obviously, the newest one, the 2021 would be good. But yeah, and then you just take a vision exam, because obviously they want to make sure that you know what you're looking at. As much as, people want to say we're blind as bats, or, whatever the heck they want to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, just go type in USTA officiating, or I think even Wisconsin had their own page, and I know Indiana and Michigan would run their own actual like officiating page, and I think even some Facebook pages too. But yeah, I mean, it was just always a good opportunity. And like I always thought about, I'm like, oh well, officials, they're always like old people and stuff, and like, well, when you think about it, yeah, they probably have more time. But at the same time, it's 15, 16 bucks an hour, even $20 an hour in some places. And you can work, 10, 20 hours in a weekend. That's an extra $400 a month or so if you just work one weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And before this coronavirus situation, I had, besides when I went to spring training, I had every weekend from late January, like the last weekend of January through the first weekend of May, booked for officiating.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, just for colleges and local tournaments, because Las Vegas, being in a nice weather area, hosts a few national tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, so it's kind of a bummer with the whole situation. But I guess I'm just happy I'm not quarantined somewhere. I'm happy, and I guess I'm blessed to know that none of my friends and family so far have been affected directly by the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I just pray that everybody that gets it just goes right through it.
Definitely. Yep. I agree. Everyone out there, listeners, my Daily Grind community, stay safe and stay healthy. But yeah, Will mentioned,
don't go to Florida for spring break.
Yeah, definitely. Don't stay quarantined, self quarantine, make the right smart decisions every day. But yeah, even outside this whole, once the situation does improve, tennis, we have tournaments all throughout the year. So as official, there's a lot of different opportunities. And like Will mentioned too, or you list all the states that you've been to, tennis is played across the U.S. So wherever you are in your neck of the woods, there's able to find an opportunity. And yeah, USTA is a great resource. So check it out online. So I guess moving forward with tennis, so Will, like when you moved out and took your high school teaching role, did you know that you were gonna teach high school tennis as well, or coach high school tennis as well?
I actually chose my job because online they had the opening for it. So I didn't like directly ask for it during my interview, because obviously the most important thing is that I am a good math teacher. Because yeah, it's great to be a good sports coach, but at the end of the day, that's not what I make the big bucks doing. I didn't get my degree per se in tennis coaching, which, I mean, you can get a professional tennis management degree at Ferris State. Go Bulldogs up there. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that if I did coach tennis, basically I wanted to go to a school that would technically need me, because there are some schools out here that are very fortunate as far as the tennis talent they get and the socioeconomic statuses. And, there's some schools that, it doesn't matter really what coach they have. They are going to have good quality players going through their program. So it's just nice to go to a program that I know when I started my first year, I had 2 girls and 3 boys in the whole program. And now I've grown that to about 12 boys and 12 girls, which is more than a full team for each. So, and they all seem to have fun. I think I'm having fun. So I guess that's a start. But but it's just making sure, I think what a lot of coaches do wrong is when somebody's starting a sport, they get tough on them, because it's like, okay, I've been playing tennis for years. I've been coaching. I've been like line judging right near, these great tennis players. So I know what exactly a good forehand and backhand look like. But you just got to take your time with it and know that everybody has their own pace. And that's why I think it's frustrating for some people. It's like, oh, these good coaches, and this is in any sport. Like, oh, these good coaches can't turn around this team or this player. And it's like, oh, that coach is coaching that player. Or, oh, that coach is coaching that team, and they're that good. So just sometimes it's just the, the nature and the beast of the actual athlete too, which helps. But I think just a striving force of that is if you go on and play and it looks like your coach doesn't really care or doesn't really want to care, it brings down the level and the intensity of that athlete knowing and caring. So it's just like setting up good practices every day and not just being like, oh, let's play games the entire time. Because at some point there needs to be some sort of regimen to improvement. Because not many people improve in life just having fun every single day or, just doing the same thing every day and expecting different results.
Yeah, you have to have that balance in regards to coaching or just training in general as an athlete across like all sports, I would say too.
Just anything in general, it's not like you do one science experiment and you're the next Albert Einstein.
No, yeah, it definitely takes a lot of practice, skill, and
a lot of fails.
Yeah.
A lot of failures.
Yeah, and you can't you might not get right on the first try and don't get, disappointed or, distraught on that failure, just pick yourself back up and then, make sure to seek progress. Small goals lead to big goals.
Yep.
So yeah, you've had a lot of maybe comparing you've been involved in a lot of different things in tennis. So as a player, as a coach, as an official, do you have any is there a number one favorite thing that you like to do on court or things that keep you interested in staying in tennis or that area, inspiring others?
Well, I try to, with the coaching tennis, we try to host summer clinics and intramurals, just trying to get more people to come out and play or, I mean, personally, I like playing a lot because it's the total control, it's like, okay, I missed that backhand. It's not like I could go tell somebody to hit that backhand better, or, officiating. I mean, I find officiating pretty fun, to be honest, because it's just really cool to be there, be in the moment and just know the things and just there might be that unique situation that keeps you coming back. Because you're like, oh, did that ball bounce twice? Or, oh, did that racket go over there? Or, it's just always that different little situation where, oh, that ball fell out of their pocket. Did that happen on purpose or did it not happen? Or, oh, the dampener flew off. And just all these little different quirks that, might only be a point in 5,000. But knowing what to do in that point in 5,000 is what makes you a great official. Because most of tennis is just back and forth, okay. Unforced error, ace, winner. Nothing crazy about 95 to 96, maybe 98% of points. I don't know statistically, happen just so fast or just so quote unquote boring that you don't really need anybody there. But they don't pay you to only be there, for those 98% of boring points. They pay you and they want you. The parents pay you and want you to be there for those extra 2% of points or for that special situation that either happens on court or off court. Different situations with, coaching, especially now with players wearing smartwatches. We've actually banned them at our local tournaments just because you don't know if they're looking at their smartwatch and you're not going to be there because you might be the only official for 6 or 8 courts. Are you really going to be perfectly monitoring 16 players at one time? If you can even see all 16 players. So yeah, but just getting, finding different situations that you can improve is always a great time. Or hosting clinics or just local workshops or even, just hosting a telephone call with a couple officials just to walk through different situations, scenarios, or things that already happened that we can improve on. Because, I mean, yeah, you're going to mess up. But the point is to learn from that and hopefully not make the same mistake again. And hopefully the next mistake you make is a better one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can personally relate to you talking about the smartwatch rule. I played in a tournament, I think beginning of last year, in Indiana, and I was wearing my Apple Watch.
Oh no.
During warm-ups, and then the official yelled at me, and I was a little frustrated because I wear my watch in general because I used to coach, and so I'd always use it to, or even you even know too, well, wearing wearing a watch so you can check the time and if anyone's trying to contact
Or
you or
see
just
the
hands
8
on.
calories I've burned today laying around my house.
Yeah. How many calories or how many steps or whatever. And so I'm just used to wearing the watch all the time. And then she told me to take it off. So it was like a 2-day tournament. And so I was like, okay, I'll take it off for at least this match. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, I bring my like non-smart watch tomorrow so I can like still have a watch, something on my wrist because I used to wearing something like attached to me, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's what I did actually the next day, and then she didn't say anything. I was like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then you get in the argument where the people wear, the Fitbits that just tell you steps.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is we don't really know if that can or can't receive communication because the way the rule is worded is somebody can't receive communication. So technically speaking, they could wear a smartwatch as long as they say they never received communication on it.
Oh, I
But
didn't
I
know
don't
that.
know what that really means or looks like. Because I mean, I could put my phone in airplane mode, but maybe if I feel it buzz once, that means I need to get to the net more because somebody texted me something, or sent me a message to make it, to make it vibrate on my wrist. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not going to, be asking players every 30 seconds, hey, you check your watch. It's just there's way more to tennis than, checking a smartwatch. And, just removing that situation, just like in life, removing an awkward situation or removing a situation that could be problems probably could be beneficial in the end.
Yeah, you're minimizing problems later in the match, and then like you mentioned before too, you could be covering like so many courts at one time. So to check in on that single court for every 30 seconds is so like not unfeasible.
Yeah, and you don't want somebody saying, "Oh, they were a great official, but they, that one player was getting coached the whole time." But I I don't know. I mean, unless I'm watching the player physically look at their watch, but it's just easier just to remove that situation. It's just one less thing for everybody to care about. Because then you don't have the player thinking, okay, what am I, what is my coach going to tell me next? Or the opponent thinking, oh, what if they're getting coached? Or, any of the parents out there or any of the coaches standing there just an observer because they'll be like, oh, well, if that kid can wear a watch, why can't my kid? Even though they're at a different site. So just having uniform rules and just, making sure everything is, fair and equal overall over all age groups.
Yeah,
Because,
exactly.
like, oh, they're 18, so they can wear a smartwatch, or, oh, they're from out of state, so they have a different rule. Be like, well, yes, every section or state could technically have a different rule. But I know when I worked San Diego this year, the girls' national, where, if you win, you go to the U.S. Open, they play with the professional rules because in pro tennis, you can't wear a smartwatch. So they played without smartwatches as well. And it's not like I penalize players, but I just remind them, before the coin toss, or if I somehow didn't spot it then during the warm up, be like, hey, you have your smartwatch on. If you could just please remove it now, that'd be great. And there was no problems other than that. Most of them were like, oh my gosh. And, they forgot to take it off. And I, as an official, even had to take my smartwatch off to make sure that I also wasn't receiving communication easily.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, my cell phone had to be off. My smartwatch had to be away. So, yep, got a really weird tan that week because I didn't bring an extra watch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have like I have a watch stand like all the time. But yeah, as a result though of me following the rules of that tournament last year, I actually did win my I think it was in the women's open singles or something. So it did not affect my game.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think it's just one less thing because when a player is sitting there thinking, okay, when am I going to get coached next? It's not letting them be reliable upon themselves, which is what tennis singles is all about. Because it shouldn't, tennis singles shouldn't come down to who's the better coach or, who has the most rackets or the most expensive string or shoes. It should come down to who's going to win the points when it matters most and who's going to win the match. So that's why I'm kind of happy tennis doesn't really have a coaching problem. Like, yeah, you'll have the parents, take off their sunglasses or cross their arms, and you don't know. I'm not going to go up and say, oh, what are you telling your kid right now? Because I just have to assume the best. I just have to assume this is all just happening in fairness and nothing's actually, being coached, and that the kid is just worrying about, or the player is just worrying about playing tennis and winning that match.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good comment right there. Yeah, you just know some of the stuff is questionable. I was going to ask you too, just being on court from different skill levels and also different age groups. Do you see more like issues or concerns more at the younger age level, like youth tennis wise, or more like high school or collegiate or like pro level?
It kind of balances out um, around the 18s, especially here because we only have a few tennis academies here. So all the kids by 17 or 18 kind of know who they're going to be playing. They've probably played each other at their local academy or at their tournaments for years. But the 10-year-olds is always fun because sometimes they don't know the rules, and that's okay. I don't expect a 9-year-old to know all the rules, but sometimes they'll be playing and you're not watching, and then they're explaining two different situations. But then the problem is we can't rely on the spectators, because what if one spectator or one family spectator is there and not the other?
Mm-hmm.
They could be saying in all fairness, but we don't know, and we have to let the players be reliable upon themselves. So and then sometimes at the 12s or 14s the kid hits the ball a little harder than they normally do, and it might go right on the line, but from your angle it might look out. You might have looked later. You really, you let your emotions get the best of you, and you really thought you were going to win that point, and you really tried really hard to win that point. So there's no way you could have lost that point. I think that's just a big thing too in tennis. It's just like, just because you've tried really hard doesn't mean you're going to win every point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, you should make it your goal to win every point that's there, but you're not going to win every point. Because I'd be pretty depressed, playing John Isner and him acing me every time and thinking I'm going to win every point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can't assume, you can't expect to win everything. It's called, like we were talking before, it's the practice. It's the grind, the daily grind, and improving yourself as a player, improving your strategy, and then also having your coach, or I wouldn't say help out, but help guide or assist you or motivate you to do the right things on the court, and also improve your game. So yeah.
And that applies to many things. Hopefully I'm going in there to say, okay, I'm going to teach the best lesson that I can every time, math. And sometimes, I explain something a little bit differently or use a little bit different diagram, or, and the other thing too is you can't take a cookie cutter approach. I have 213 different geometry students. There's no way that all 213 kids are A, at the same math level, B, of the same motivation, and C, all learn the exact same way and at the exact same pace.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're hindered by themselves or outside influences, whether, they really want to watch a TikTok video the whole class, or, they're just staring at something, or, just stuck on something, in third or fourth grade that could be holding them back now. Because if you don't really understand dilations well, maybe you don't understand fractions well, and that, that fourth grade concept is what's holding you back for more. So it's just kind of sometimes going back to the basics can be very beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really well said there. I was going to ask too, like the skills that you've taken from all your different positions, basically, at Whitewater, being a club tennis president, from student teaching to where you are now. A lot of the skill sets that you've learned over the years, has that helped improve or help benefit you in your current role as a geometry teacher?
Yeah, I mean, just having the student teaching, especially in Jamaica, where I taught at Mandeville, they didn't actually have, well, sorry, it's Mile Gully High School. We lived in Mandeville, but they couldn't afford subs. So some days you're in there, you're student teaching, you're sitting there with, the licensed teacher, you're watching them teach, you're helping out when you can. And it's like, oh, we don't have a sub in this class the whole day. So, you're just like, oh, well, I guess I have the 8 seconds while I'm walking over there to plan out a 6th grade math lesson or 11th grade math lesson, and teach it for the whole day, because maybe there's no plans, because there's not a computer in every room. There's actually no technology in every room. There's just whiteboards with, and you bring your own markers. So, but that always just, told me that, be prepared when you can be, but don't let a situation that you can't control stress you out entirely. I'm not going to go in there and thinking, okay, I'm going to teach the best math class in my life right now, because I prepared for this for 5 seconds. That's not fair to me or those kids. But I'm not going to, go up and say, okay, well, we're going to do nothing today because I don't know anything. Like, no, I'm a math teacher. I'm still going to find some sort of way to turn that nothing day or something day into like an all thing day, whether we're working on that content or working on something that could make them better at doing that content. But yeah, I don't know. It's just always, kept me, I guess, level minded or level headed, even headed. I don't know the special term. But, just setting a preparation level for yourself, giving yourself expectations, and just giving yourself little goals every day is just something great. Whether, I remember the old video of making your bed. I don't think I've ever made my bed, unless my mom was yelling at me when I lived there. But, just setting different goals in life, macro, micro, a week goal, a month goal, 3-month goal, even a day goal or an hour goal. There's something to do to give yourself some motivation or something to strive for. Because I don't want to just go into work every day and say, oh, my goal today is to work. Where does that get me? Where does that get anyone? If I'm just showing up to do something that I don't know. Because one of my favorite quotes was Vince Vaughn's character in Dodgeball, where he's talking, about setting goals. He goes, well, I've learned that if you never set goals, you never have anything to worry about. You don't have to worry about doing anything, if you never set a goal. So that's why I've always been big on setting goals, whether, it was in high school tennis, writing down, okay, I'm going to learn how to hit my backhand better. I'm going to win this amount of tennis matches and I'm going to make state. And just seeing those goals and visualizing that every day. And, not just like, oh, I want to hold up a big trophy every day, but just visualizing how can I improve? How can I get there? Because, it's not just like Michael Jordan one day was just like, oh, there's the greatest basketball player of all time. Like, no, I'm guessing it took him years and years of dedicating himself to his craft, mentally, physically, psychologically. And, and that's why we still talk about him today. And that's why we're going to talk about all the great athletes, even, Novak Djokovic. I'm sure growing up in the civil war in Serbia was probably not something he was looking forward to doing every day. But he still somehow came out of that with different goals and different mindsets and positive mindsets to basically now, win all these tournaments, give back to Serbia, give back money, or his time, host practices in front of 30, 40,000 fans. I mean, 40,000 fans to just see some guy hit a tennis ball around. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of great points there, Will. Being someone that's goal driven, as well as trying to achieve or reach different goals and set stuff not only just on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, but further out, short term and long term, to help achieve what your ultimate vision is and what you want to get out in life overall. You mentioned too flexibility as an educator, so I think you could maybe give us a little bit of an insight in regards to, with the whole COVID situation going on, being flexible as a teacher. Like, how has that impacted your schedule? And I guess can you give us a little bit more visibility in that area? I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's almost been a complete 180. So the old, not the old saying, but the old like pedagogical and different. I don't even know if that's a word. The pedagogy. Is basically what's called a flipped classroom, kind of like in college where, you learn the content on your own, either through the book or online, and then you come into the class and then the teacher will help you with the problems or the activity that was assigned. And that's kind of almost, what we're doing now, but there's just so much uncertainty because, it's like, okay, school's canceled for the week. Okay, the governor's canceling it for 2 weeks, a month. President Trump's now pushing things back to April 30th. So do we push things back to April 30th? Some schools, Arizona just canceled all school for the rest of the year, for the rest of the school year. It's like, okay, so do we do what they do because they're over here and we're over here? We're not that far away from each other. But you can't really, I mean, I cannot control what Governor Sisolak or, President Trump is going to say, or even, what our Clark County School District's going to say. I can only control what I can, which is I can control the content or, what I'm delivering to my students, which is, creating a Google Classroom, finding different videos, finding different activities, whether, it's on different programs like Khan Academy, IXL, or, getting things printed off to them at different food distribution websites here in Las Vegas and getting that out to them just so they know that just because they don't have the internet, they can't do something that somebody else is doing. Because I never want to make, a student feel hopeless or helpless knowing, oh, well, I don't have the internet, so I'm not going to be as smart or I'm not going to achieve as much. And I know Cox and I'm back in Wisconsin, we're offering, free internet for all those people. And that's amazing because the internet now, I mean, it's showing through all of these different services. I mean, honestly, who heard of Zoom a year ago? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I know everybody's like, oh, Zoom this, Zoom that. And now, we have DocuSign, we have Teledoc, and all these different jobs where, in careers where it's like, oh, you can't do that online. Now it's like, oh, we're moving online for 2 to 3 months. It's like, what? This job that you couldn't do. But the thing with teaching is, you're removing that basically level of connection, and going back to motivational levels and goal setting, there's intrinsic motivation within oneself and then extrinsic. Well, we can give extrinsic goals in the classroom. Okay, this class had the highest, mean average increase. So then we'll throw you a pizza party. Whether that kid doesn't like math or not, they might like pizza. But now, it's really balanced on the intrinsic motivation for these students because we don't want to assign something and have it graded, have it, bring down someone's grade just because they don't have the best access to the internet. Or, it might be something going on at home, especially with the casinos. Actually not almost, every single casino here is turned off.
Oh, wow.
Even when you walk into the 7-Eleven, the slot machines in there are turned off. Even though 7-Eleven's open, but the slot machines are turned off, which is just showing how much of an impact, just a quick impact, a month, that this coronavirus situation has had, just a quick economic turn. And educationally, I mean, I've seen teachers, I joined a Facebook group, different teachers, going to visit their students and like standing in their driveway and waving hi, just trying to keep that physical connection there and showing the students, especially these seniors that have been, in school for what, 13 years. And, we were joking 2 months ago that they might graduate over a Skype call or Zoom. And now it's like, well, that might happen. And I think they're just being robbed of so many memories. And it's not even like, oh, I miss learning the Pythagorean theorem. Like, oh, okay. But like, they're missing out on, senior sunrise and senior sunset or prom. And then, we have a Disneyland grad day every year where we take our students to Disneyland. And I'm sure that's an experience that they will hopefully look back on and smile that we can't provide them anymore. We even had a group that was going to Japan this summer and they got their whole trip canceled. I'm not even sure how that refund situation is working out. And that's just our school, just one high school. So I can't imagine all the different scenarios and especially those students. Luckily we had our winter sports finish early February just because our winters here are not like winters back home. But, back in Wisconsin, they had to cancel state tournaments. So you work hard and, there's this situation that we have to recognize is just more than us. Just because we want to do something and we think we've earned it or we should have it. Oh, yeah, I really want to take that trip to Florida because I want to. Well, just because you want to do something and feel like you need to do something doesn't mean we as a whole group of people need that to happen or want that to happen. Like, yeah, I would love people to go to, Hawaii or California or, Miami and sit out there on the beach all day because they've earned it. They've had the money, they have the time. But, in Hawaii right now, they're having a 14-day mandatory quarantine. So if you want to go visit Hawaii right now for all those cheap flights, it's going to take you 3 weeks minimum.
Yeah.
So, but, wrapping that back to education, just trying to find, and I'm not assigning, oh, do all these assignments. Like, no, I'm calling, I'm checking in, I'm emailing the students like, hey, just make sure you try this one thing because I don't want to stress them any more than they think they should be. I don't want to be that person. Be like, oh, why'd you have a bad day? Be like, oh, my math teacher gave me too much work today. Like I don't want to be that person in life. But I don't want to, say, oh, it's free time, have fun, because, we've had situations here in Las Vegas in the past few years, especially that October day, that, it's just, you can't just sit there and think about that and focus on that, because as a saying goes, your past doesn't need you, your future does. And it's great to, sit back and reflect on situations and learn from them, and, and take time to reflect on them. But at some point, we need to move on and, get better as people. And I think that way, what we're doing, at least at our school and in most schools, providing quick education, doing a 5 or 10 minute Zoom video, assigning that one thing, just giving the students something else to focus on other than, seeing the news every day, seeing how bad it is, or seeing how bad it's going to get. And I'm not saying, that's the news's fault. They're doing a great job, because we can't under prepare for, we need more resources. But I don't want my students to think, oh, well, we're not going to have enough respirators, so I don't think I need to do anything. You're like, nope, there's still geometry after this. There's still going to be a world. There's still going to be math. So I don't want my students thinking, oh, we can just take off because, everything else is taking off. But yeah, it's just been a very interesting time as an educator for sure.
Yeah, that's really great insight, Will. Lots to think about at the local level, and it also affects state level, national level, all over the place. Sports, outside of sports, in the classroom. You're dealing with high school students. There's college students out there that wondering, my cousin, she's supposed to graduate this semester, if she's going to walk across the stage, or what's going to happen, or things of that nature. So a lot of people are dealing with different situations in education. It's really difficult. It's really unfortunate, but again, we gotta stay safe and do what's best. Not don't be selfish in regards to your actions. Think of your actions as a bigger picture, the whole group of people around you, your community. How's that impact? And also stay focused in your studies, because I think higher education is very valuable, and it comes down to people like Will and other educators out there to help motivate our students to they're going to be our future leaders out there. So we got to do what's good in the world. And Will, I thank you so much for helping help teach and make a difference out there in the world.
Oh yeah, I try my worst sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. I try my genuine best, but right now it's tough, and I don't want to let that get anybody down. And I mean, we're obviously fortunate that we can work from home. Our situation, we're still being paid, so it's not a financial burden. So I am blessed to that extent. So I definitely do not want to complain one bit about the situation. Like, yes, it's obviously great if I could go to my students and help teach them and be there for them, with one-on-one education. But at the same time, I guess, I'm happy to the extent that I don't have to, expose myself to the coronavirus or anything out there right now, and just, letting all things play out.
Definitely, yeah. It's still good that you're able to communicate, which is really good, to stay in touch with your students and, teach them what they need to know and things of like that nature. I think communication, not just in the education realm, but also in the business world too. And you touched earlier with different businesses being affected as well, impacted. I would say probably for the worse overall, but there's some upsides in regards to what's going on, making technology improvements, different businesses switching their factories to help produce those health items and products to help support in this overall quarantine. So yeah, maybe let's transition more into the business, talking about business, and I guess maybe one of your most latest interests, Will, investing and trading.
Yep, that is a main interest in my life. Yep, teaching and then investing.
So,
but yeah, but investing wise, I think when people hear the word investing, they kind of get nervous. They're like, oh, I'm not old enough for that. I don't have the money for that. I don't have the time for that. I don't have the right apps on my phone for that. Like, first off, I'm using an iPhone, 5C or SE or whatever this is. So, I think it was $50 a couple years ago. So it's
Yeah.
not like, oh, you need that brand new iPhone to invest or anything like that. And there's so many different forms of investing because people think, oh, invest like I put my money in the bank account and it sits there forever and then it'll be more money. Like, yeah, in theory, and yeah, it will be more money, but there was just a day, last year that I was looking at my Chase savings account. I'm like, wow, 0.01% interest. So that means if I leave, what, $10,000 in here over a year, I should have what, like a dollar? Not even, it's
Yeah.
like you're sitting there, you're like, huh, okay. I mean, that's fine. And then you're like, well, isn't this actually losing money? Because then you look, into inflation, and one of the podcasts I listen to frequently is Freakonomics, and they were interviewing Andrew Yang, the presidential candidate. He's talking about, inflation's between 1% to 3% in some areas. So it's like, okay, so if my money's not growing at 1% a year minimum, then I'm losing money just for having money. So my $10,000 this year is not $10,000 next year. It is in theory, but the cost of buying power, how much bread can you buy, how much gas can you buy, which I guess right now you can probably buy a lot of gas. I think my mom just filled up for like 89 cents at Pick and Save.
Oh my
But
gosh.
when that comes back, or just any of these groceries, or all those businesses that sadly have upscaled their charges, during this time. But anyways, but there's a multitude of ways to invest. Whether you have that Acorns app or Acorn, where if you spend $3.95, it will round up to the nearest dollar, so that 5 cent it will put in some sort of investment fund, and just have this slow, gradual, what's called the target date usually. So okay, I want to retire or have this money by 2050, 2060, 2040, and you can come up with your own risk, because obviously I don't know the age of all of your listeners, but I'm guessing they're around, 25 to 35 years old for the most part. But there's just so many different ways to invest. And whether, you want to do personal investing either on like Robinhood, Webull, what's the other ones, like Tastyworks. I'm thinking all the free ones right now, or even, TD Ameritrade, I think has gone free,
Yep, I believe so
and
too.
Fidelity and things like that. Or you want to get to, just value investing, like, okay, I want these shares and I know in 50 years these are going to be worth a lot of money. Like you're looking at companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon. Even some people thinking Tesla, or I used to be what's called a Virgin Galactic bull, because I thought, okay, Virgin Galactic is going up so much and they're going to have everything for space tourism. They're going to be worth hundreds of dollars a share, and they were worth like $7, and then they went all the way up to like $35 in a matter of months. So that was pretty cool to watch and be in. But or I have a CD, a certificate of deposit, which is something that anybody can open at their bank account, and they'll give you an adjusted interest rate. I think I got a 1.5%. The only problem with the CD is when you put your 1,000 or 2,000 in there, it's in there. It's not like, okay, I'll take it out now, like when I need it. Like, nope. You can open, though. You might be thinking, well, what can I do? You can open what's called a no penalty CD online. So I think Ally Financial, or Ally, ALLY Financial has one. It's called a money market account, and it'll even be FDIC insured. So you can have your money grow, 1.518%, which isn't beating out inflation. But I'll tell you one thing, it's really beating out a savings account that's growing at 0.01% interest.
Yeah, there's lots of different investment tools out there, or things to invest in. We'll mention very briefly on that. We talked to Grace Fenton, I think 2 episodes ago, and she kind of led it into our episode today. One of the things that you need to know going into the real world is having like a financial plan. So kind of know what something that's financially feasible for you to do and to invest in to help grow. So when you're looking back from this episode and 20 years from now, you're financially stable, or hopefully know what you're doing and able to, have a sustainable lifestyle and things of that nature. So yeah, Will, do you want to share like maybe some key tips or advice or things that you've, I guess, tools or research or any of the above that could, um, obviously we're not soliciting advice in regards to, making so and so trade or
Oh yeah,
whatnot,
I'm
but
never going to tell anybody
yeah.
what stock to buy or when to buy it.
But
I'll say I'm interested. I'm probably going to buy these stocks, but you also have to come up with, the amount you're willing to lose, and just coming up with, okay, I bought, that stock for $30, so I'm okay selling it at $20. I can be okay with that. But just going on investing, I've always just kind of been interested in how to grow money. Just from getting the allowance as a kid to, okay, there's got to be way more ways in life to make money than just, working. Because, yes, obviously, the more you work and the harder you work and the more you study, the more you should get paid. But you're sitting there, you're thinking, well, there's got to be more. So when I was 18, I opened a Roth IRA, which used to be 5,500, but now it's 6,000 post-tax dollars a year that you can invest. And I just have an account with local. It's actually your high school tennis coach, Greg Alft, and but just opened one with a local firm. And basically, I have this money grow at roughly like a 6 to 10% rough growth a year, which obviously was not beating out the market previously, going up 30%, where mine was only going up, 15%. But, you don't want to live just for the big gains, because I'm not retiring next year. I want to retire, when I'm 50 years old or 52 years old. So about, 30 years of working. But just opening that Roth IRA, because there are multiple, the biggest tax benefit is, let's say you're putting in $6,000 in there a year, right? And we'll just run through a quick scenario.
Sure.
And it's growing, let's say, at 5% a year, right? So that means the next year, roughly what? 5% of 6,000 is what? $300, I think? Yeah. So next year you have $6,300. Not much, but you made $300 just for having money in there. Then you put in another 6,000, right? And I don't do 6,000 at once. I do what's called a DCA, a dollar cost average. Okay. So I put in $500 per month, because then the problem is, let's say you put in $6,000 in January when you bought at all these stocks highs or all these ETFs highs. Well, then you're losing money right now. It's going to come back at some point. It took about 2 to 3 years for 2008 to come back. So I'm guessing it'll probably take, 2 to 5 years. I don't know. I wish I knew. But at some point, all these ETFs and all these stocks, for the most part, all these, mutual funds and bonds will come back. So that's why right now people have been, buying the dip, going low. But going back to that Roth IRA, I have somebody managing it, looking at it for me, doing stuff every so often. But that compound interest of 5% a year will grow to thousands and thousands of dollars a year just for being in there. So over 30, 40 years, let's say you have, $1.5 million in there. Well, the problem with that is, let's say you have a regular 401k, you're putting in your pre-tax money, right? You're getting tax benefits right off the bat, but you might have to pay 30, 40% to withdraw that money. And even more, in case 30, 40 years from now, we want to raise that to help pay for other things. So now you're looking at your $1 million. Well, it's really only $600,000. And especially right now with the economy going down 10, 15%, well, that $1 million is probably now 900,000. Now you got to take that out, right? So, but the good part about the Roth IRA is that at the end, when you're retiring and you have $1.5 million in there, you have $1.5 million in there. And you can start withdrawing at 59 and a half years old. And now I think you can actually keep on contributing as long as you're making money. So as long as you make $6,000 a year, you can contribute $6,000. If you make $1,000, you can put in $1,000. And I think you can start a Roth IRA even at 16 years old with a parent cosigner or guardian cosigner. So you can kind of start young and just build that portfolio slowly but surely. And, hopefully years from now, you'll be like, oh, I'm a millionaire and I did not even make that much money in life. just because of compound interest of the wonderful thing called time. You have that extra 10 years, 20 years on somebody that starts investing at 25, 30, 35, even 40 years old. Some people don't even start investing.
Yeah, exactly. Time is valuable.
Yep. And then another thing that I started was called a lazy fund portfolio. This is based off of a Boggleheads book I read. So it's 3 funds. It's the U.S. Stock Total Fund. It's the U.S. Not U.S. International Total Stock Fund, and then a U.S. Stock one. So I have what's called a 70, 20, 10% split on all of those for the most part. And basically, one of the old things you hear, when you start investing is, oh, you don't want to put all your money in one pot, right? Because it'd be great to throw, $1,000 at, ExxonMobil, but it could tank, 20, 30, 40% in a week. And now you've lost 20, 30, 40% because you had all your money in one share, one company. So the good part about doing that diversification with the U.S. total stock is you own basically teeny percent of every single stock in that ETF. So you are completely diversified right off the bat, right? Which is awesome. And then, you can have, 70% of your money in there, 20% in the international one, because right now the international markets are pretty cheap, and then have some bonds. And then basically what people do is every year they'll just reallocate it, because right now, stocks are cheaper than they were last year. So maybe people that are doing the 70, 20, 10 might have to reallocate here soon. But yeah, it's just a really good way just to basically have your money growing. I basically put any income that I can in there. So I try keeping my, savings account to, a couple $1,000 just in case of an emergency, that I don't have to take out that money and then worry about getting taxed on it right off the bat. So yeah, that's just one way. And obviously we've already talked about a CD and what's called a money market account.
Yep.
Another way to invest is in yourself. I was like, okay, I need to make more money at my job. How do I do that as a teacher? Well, get a master's. Okay, so look at all these master's programs. I'm like, okay, I want to do this educational technology one. And some universities, okay, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. Like, okay, that's okay, but at the $5,000 raise, that's gonna take me 4, 5, 6 years to pay off. So I looked into Western Governors University, where it's your own self-paced. You can finish it in a year, and it's $3,500 a semester. So I'm like, okay, I can afford that. I can make payments. I can pay my master's off within a year or two. And then any money that I make past that is just more money I have to invest or use for vacations, just used for my own personal well-being. Maybe I want to finally upgrade to the iPhone 6. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the final big way that I've been investing lately is on Robinhood. It's called options trading. So it's a pretty fun thing, but options trading. So basically, the concept behind it is, let's say there's a stock at, I don't know, 10. Let's go with Ford right now. I think they're trailing at $5 right now. Let's say you think by April 17th or April 24th, you think they'll be worth $5.50 a share. And that's where you would like to own Ford at, is $5.50 a share. So you can do what's called buying a call, which you were saying, I think it's going to go up by this, and I will pay this little bit of a premium. Or it's going to go down. You can do what's called buying a put. So people attribute this to 2 things. They call it insurance, because if you make a big position in one thing, you buy puts just in case it goes down. You don't totally lose all of your money. But the other thing they call it is gambling, because no one truly knows where a stock is going to be, right? I mean, obviously we would like to know as much insider trading, recently with these senators or Martha Stewart or anybody like that.
Yeah.
But we'd like to know where a stock is going to be, and, places set price targets. They're like, okay, this is worth $30, $40, but they aren't saying it's worth it right now. They're just saying they hope eventually by a certain time or, at some point in life, it's going to be worth this much a share. But what I'm doing is what's called selling or writing puts, which is basically saying I get paid a premium to buy a stock at a certain price. So, okay, I'll sell, Ford $4 puts because I would love to buy Ford for $4. Or, Boeing $80 puts. Yes, I would love to buy Boeing at $80. So then three things happen. If Boeing doesn't reach $80, let's say the premium's, $1 a share and each contract entitles you to 100 shares. So, okay, Boeing's worth, $80 a share. Let's, right now I think it's 150. So let's say I want to buy Boeing for $100. So I write the put for $100 and let's say on April, 17th, right? And let's say I get paid $1.50 a share. So I'm making $150 on that option contract. Well, let's say Boeing doesn't reach that $100. I keep that $150. Let's say Boeing hits $100 where I was going to buy it at. I, spend the $10,000 to buy 100 shares of Boeing, but I keep that $150. Let's say Boeing goes past that $100 below to, $90, right? Well, now, okay, yes, I lose $10 per share because I'm buying Boeing for $100 a share. But I still keep that premium of $150, so I'm really only losing $8.50 a share. So I think it's just such a logical way to do things, just because if you're convincing yourself you're going to buy something at a certain price, why not? Because I like to think about it. Okay, I'm going to a restaurant. Oh, I'd like to try that at some time, but maybe later when it's a little bit cheaper. Maybe I don't want to buy that lobster, mac and cheese because I think it's too expensive. Now, obviously, yes, you're probably not going to go back to a restaurant, but maybe it goes on sale, which is what a lot of people are saying the stock market is right now. Oh, it's on sale because it's, near the 2018 lows. So I still think there's a lot more to go, but that's my own personal opinion. But going back to the selling puts, yeah, I would love to buy Boeing for $100. And if it never reaches there, I just keep the premium. So I make that, 1%, 2% interest or whatever it is, right? And you can find things that have what's called a high IV, a high implied volatility, and the premiums will be worth more, and then you sell those and you make even more money doing it. And there's a higher break-even price, the price in between your strike price and what you sold your premium for. So like, let's say you're selling, 50-cent premium, so 50 cents a share, and then the stock price is at $5. So your break even is $4.50. So if the stock stays above $4.50 by the time it expires, you technically make money, and you might even own 100, 200, or, I've sold hundreds of contracts before. I might own 10, 20, 30, 40,000 shares of something. And then you can become like an old person and do dividend investing. Like, oh, I would love to own this stock because it pays a 2% dividend a year. So that means every year, let's say the stock is $100 and their dividend's 2%. That means every year you'll be given $2, which either you can keep right away, even though tax reasons that's income, or you can do what's called the DRIP, which is a dividend reinvestment. And it basically reinvests right back into the stock and buys more of that. So you get more dividends a year. So hopefully when you're retired, like, wow, I'm making a lot of money, and it just keeps them buying more shares of like Ford, Johnson & Johnson, NextEra Energy, and just these different dividend shares. Even Microsoft, and I think even Apple has a dividend now. Yeah. But just all these different things that, just keep on coming back and keep on reinvesting, whether it's monthly, quarterly, biannually, or annually. And basically you can just grow your income that way. And then when you retire, you can just turn it into regular income and make, an extra $30,000, $40,000 a year just sitting there.
Yep. I was just going to mention, the dividend investing, just reinvesting what you're earning, basically. Just in summary of what Will just gave us, really great tips and advice.
All off of YouTube. Yeah. I did not take a single financial class on anything stock-wise. Obviously, I wish I did, but I've read that Bogglehead's book, The Three Folio. Another book that I read that got me interested in money was, I think, Kelly, either you recommended this to me or I recommended it to you, The Broke Millennial by Aaron Lowry. Yep, that book got me interested in money, and then she even came out with one called Broke Millennial Takes on Investing.
Yes.
Which got me more interested in that. And it's not, she's not a guru, she's not like, oh, I bought Netflix at $4 and now it's $300. Like, I limit myself to gains and losses. Obviously, yes, I would love to, be the person on Wall Street Bets on Reddit and make the 100,000% sale and, turn $1,000 into $1 million. But the problem with that is those people, I can't look at, a $10,000 day and be like, oh, well, I can't wait for it to be more tomorrow. Like, no, that's $10,000. And and that happens. You'll make $10,000 in a day doing these calls and options and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be sitting there looking at it and you'll be like, wow, I can make $10,000. And then one time, like just one thing I did on a solar company, I bought a bunch of calls I'm like, okay, I'll buy this many calls, I'll spend $3 a call, and I bought 100 calls. So I was like, okay, I spent, $3 a share. So I'm spending $300, and I spent, $3,000, or sorry, it's 30 cents a share times 100. So I spent $3,000. Well, that 30 cents a share turned up to 98 cents a share, like $1 a share. So I grew at 70 cents a share, but I'm entitled to 10,000 shares. So I grew $8,000 in a day, or like at $9,000 in a day. I'm like, wow, I can't wait for this to be more tomorrow. And then the after hours, it tanked.
Mm-hmm.
So my $3,000 investment, I pulled out the next day for a $1,000 loss when I could have been up $9,800.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of eye-opening. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I'm scared. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, so I've learned about creating credit spreads and debit spreads and calendar spreads where, you sell something on one day and buy it on another day, because the further you buy out, the more expensive it will be, because you're buying your best friend, you're buying time.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's what's called theta decay and options.
You're bringing back so many good memories from my finance classes, Will.
Oh yeah, and here's me. I never took one.
Here's
Just
Will.
reading books and watching YouTube.
Yeah, some of the
and Reddit, a lot of Reddit.
Yeah,
for good or bad.
The good old days, I guess, of your host Kelly Fast here in the undergrad finance classes, where sometimes our professor, some of the professors were very straightforward. A good teacher in regards to me coming from no background in finance, obviously before I enrolled in college, to learning it in that class, to other professors out there just kind of throw you something, throw you the content. But Will, on the other hand, you can tell he is a outstanding educator, because he's teaching us the best out here, listeners. So yeah, it just, in summary, in investing, I think it comes down to your motivation and your financial goals and personal goals in life. So yeah, we'll touch.
Well, and the other thing too is, don't invest more than you think you want to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So like, don't put in $1,000 and think, well, I really need that $1,000 to be something more. Like, I need it to happen. Like, yeah, obviously it's great if you can turn, $10,000 into $30,000 in a couple months. But at the same time, you don't want to put $10,000 in there and think, okay, I need this. Like, I need this to happen, because now you get into the wonderful, terrible world of gambling.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're like, okay, I'm going to look into penny stocks because they're really cheap. But the problem with penny stocks is they have what's called a very high volatility, and that they could go really high up or really far down in a matter of minutes. Especially if you get in those triple leverage things like, what's the one right now? TVIX, TVIX.
Mm-hmm.
It's a triple leverage, what's called VIX, which is a volatility indicator. And I mean, they were going for $40 a share in January, and the volatility has increased so much with all the different circuit breakers and stuff in the stock market. It went up to almost $1,000 a share in a month. So you're sitting there like, oh my God. And then the next day, volatility goes down 10%. Well, it's leveraged 3 times. So now you've lost 30% of your money. But if you bought early, it doesn't really matter. So that's why people that bought in, 2010 and 11 are looking at this drop and they're like, yeah, it's not good. But at the same time, we've had record growth in the past 10 years. Absolute record growth.
Mm-hmm.
That's why right now, at some point it's going to come back. So that's why if you are going to invest, don't put in $5,000 right away, unless obviously you have a lot more money to invest. Just, pick some stocks that you're comfortable with. And another thing too is I don't believe in investing things that per se. Like, I know 100% about Microsoft, so that's the only thing I'm going to buy. Like, no, research some different companies. Diversify your portfolio and more than the extent than just a company. Because let's say you're investing in, Virgin Galactic, Tesla, and, like AMD, NVIDIA, Microsoft, and, you're investing in all these tech companies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if tech takes a big dip one day because, we can't produce all the things and a certain part of the world right now. Well, then you can't sell those things. Now tech's going to take a big dip. Or if you're invested in REITs, R-E-I-T, real estate trust, real estate, what are they? Real estate investment trust, R-E-I-T, I think so.
Yeah.
But what if they take a big dip because, a company like Cheesecake Factory can't pay their landlords on Wednesday on April 1st? Which obviously they're going to take a big hit because they can't pay their rent. So there's real estate. Well, now, if you have all your money in there, especially this past month or two, if you have all your money in the energy sector, which has taken a massive dip with Saudi Arabia and Russia pumping up billions of dollars and more barrels of oil, bringing down crude oil prices to like what, $20, $18 a barrel? I mean, that is cheap.
Really low.
That is so, I mean, you're going to have these companies here drilling for fracking oil for a loss, which obviously you never want to operate anything at a loss. You try not to, So, but yeah, just looking at different companies, looking at, what this company can do, what it has done. And I do like looking at history of stocks. I know that's not, the best thing in the world, but it's like, oh, wow, AMD dropped from $30 to $4 in the Great Recession. So maybe it could do the same now. Not saying it will, but it could. It's done it before, so why couldn't it do it again? That's kind of my belief. But don't let the past totally drive your future,
Yeah, exactly. And then start with what you're comfortable at. If it's something small, then gradually increase as you become more experienced in that area.
Yep. Like I've helped my girlfriend, grow $500 into $600 in a month or two. Like, oh, it's only $100, but that's still a pretty good increase. And we're looking at investing at little companies and little things and stuff that she's probably never heard of, and I probably really never heard of. I just, go on Twitter, go on like dividend.com and stuff like that, and read the different things that you can do, and like read different, outputs. Like if there's a bunch of bad news around a company, you might want to stay away from it for a while. Or another really good website is Morningstar. They'll even come out. I don't pay for their premium service or endorsing them in any way, but just going on with that, they come out with like analyst reports, and they look at like the whole balance sheet of a company, like how much free cash flow, like how much money this company produces and how much extra they make, and then you get companies like Uber where, they want to operate at a loss because they want to create such a need for Uber that they can raise their rates, and then they'll be more expensive, and then people will be buying it, because there are people will be investing or wanting Uber just because it's Uber. And that's why I think there's such a negative, outlook on Uber in a way, but they beat their earnings report per se a couple months ago because they were like, oh, they're almost profitable now. That's good. It's just like, wait, what? They're still losing money, but their stocks went up. So that's another thing is like looking at earnings reports. It's great, but sometimes you look at them, you're like, oh, it went down, but it's going up because they forecasted something, you don't know. I mean, obviously, it'd be great to, like I said before, know exactly what a company is going to do, but you can't. Take out the fun in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Keeps it interesting, keeps you on your feet all the time, basically.
Yep.
So lots of great content from Will here on investing and trading. So I'll put all of the books and podcasts and websites that he recommended in today's show notes. So yeah, Will, you keep yourself very busy in regards to teaching, coaching, investing. What are your favorite things to do outside of, I guess, all these things that keep your schedule busy? Do you have time to de-stress?
Are you saying like outside of my apartment, or are we keeping it like inside jokes?
Yeah, I guess maybe.
No, I'm just kidding.
Or I guess, but pre-COVID-19.
Yeah. Well, Kyla, my girlfriend, and I love to go hiking. We've been to a few national parks. I think I've been to like 45 national parks.
Oh, wow.
I think somewhere around there. I don't know. You kind of lose track in all the scenery and, bears running after you and stuff. But, we went up to, Canada this summer, went up to Banff, went around Montana, Wyoming. We've gone down, to California, to Utah. And, well, I mean, not down to Utah, up to Utah, I guess. But, just going around all these places and just seeing all these beautiful things, and especially national parks. I mean, they're free for the most part. And I try to donate to national parks whenever I can. I think that's another big thing in life, especially investing. Like, it's great to have more money, but what are you going to do with it? You just got to make more money to make more money. But at some point, what does that do? At some point, if you die with $10 million, what was the point? Somebody else with $10 million or do the state tax,
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
but yeah, we love going to national parks. I love, reading. I've been reading a lot of John Muir. I just finished Wilderness Essays. I read a review about John Muir. He actually is a Wisconsin alum, and he basically, the person describing is, I've never read somebody that could describe me the wind. I was like, I think I got to check this out. And I read the book. I mean, he's talking about, going to Yosemite, going to Alaska, and I felt like I was there. And, it just inspires me more to see more places and, try and make it to Alaska or Italy or, Canada again, or, the East Coast, up to Acadia or, even, we've been to the national parks in Hawaii, but just going back there, and seeing the different wildlife, seeing the different changes in the seasons and times. Because obviously we went to, Hawaii volcanoes this past year, but it already erupted, so the roads were broken. Didn't take away from the magic per se, but there's just so many of the different, parts of the park that we couldn't even explore. So happy to do that in a few years in the Big Island and go back there. Let's see, other favorite things to do. We love playing board games. I'm obsessed with board games.
Yeah.
Absolutely obsessed. We literally play a game called Parks, which is you go around national parks.
Yeah.
Other big games we play are like One Night Werewolf, Exploding Kittens, Seven Wonders, Code Names, just a lot of different games.
Yeah, great activities for you listeners out there during this whole COVID stay at home. Board games. Yeah.
Yep, they keep you indoors. They keep you looking at your phone and reading too much news and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we
great.
also are Disneyland annual pass holders. So when it's open, we like to go once every few months, see the different changes to a ride, go during, like, we went for Lunar New Year in January. So it was great because they had a different celebration and different food. And Kylan got to take a picture with Mulan, which is her favorite character.
Nice.
And yeah, it was just a good time. Or, we went back in December and it was a different theme, different food, different opportunities and stuff. I don't know. It's just nice to be surrounded by happy people and just be like, oh, it's Disneyland. This is great. And we go probably 10, 15 times a year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, it's not too far from you either, too. Just like a short drive.
It's a 4-hour drive.
It's not, that's doable.
Yeah, it sounds bad, but you're like, you're going to Disneyland. So, you have a little bit of extra motivation in there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, on your national parks, do you have like an all-time favorite or like a top 3 or your most recent favorites that you traveled to?
Oof.
Or that's a tough question.
Zion, I mean, that's top 5. Bryce Canyon, love that place too. That's actually where Kylan and I went, and that was our first national park. Let's see what else. Glacier up in Montana was gorgeous. Especially if you go in like June, July, and August when it's not raining as much. Just bring bear spray. If you haven't heard of bear spray, look it up. It's like pepper spray, but for bears. Almost had to use it. Banff up in Canada was stunning. Recommend that to anyone. Yellowstone, I mean, I guess my problem with Yellowstone is it's such a great park that you can just like park your car and walk a few feet and there's the thing you're looking for. Compared to like, the Grand Canyon where you got to walk down, walk around the Grand Canyon to appreciate it. Or Zion, you do Angel's Landing or Observation Point. You do this crazy strenuous hike with chains and stuff. And it's like, wow, I really worked hard for this view. And then Yellowstone, it's like, hey, park here, walk a few feet. There's a geyser. There's this cool rainbow pool. There's a waterfall. There's some buffalo. You're like, oh, okay. But like, I don't know. It's just a different type of appreciation. Another favorite is Grand Teton National Park up in Wyoming. It actually connects with Yellowstone. But yeah, I mean, there's beauty everywhere, even at, Lapham Peak up in Waukesha. You could just walk around there and just be surrounded by trees and stuff, which sounds so weird to say surrounded by trees, but then you come out here and it's like, is that a tree? Nope. Different plant, different tall plant.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a different kind of beauty everywhere. So I don't want to be like, oh yeah, it's the Grand Canyon. It's gorgeous. It's the best thing you've ever seen. It's, it's all, what you think it is.
Yeah.
Like my favorite quotes is, in the movie Vacation, Clark Griswold pulls up to Grand Canyon. He's like, oh, there it is. Okay, let's go. And then they leave. Yeah, I guess you could view a national park like that. You look at that thing, there it is. Okay, let's go. But at some
Yeah.
point, it's like, oh, it's really cool to see the different landscapes. Or, if you're a geologist, I can't even imagine how exciting Grand Canyon is. If you're a geologist, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's just so many different things at all the national parks. And, we go camping and stuff, and it's just nice just to get away for a little bit and just like be in the moment. You wake up in a tent, you're like, cool. I don't have to worry about turning on the oven or anything. You're like, I'll boil an egg over a fire that you can barely start. It's I don't know. Like, and another great one that we went to this summer is Sequoia. Just to be surrounded, like you don't like it's great to be surrounded by trees, and then you go to Sequoia, you're like, what? You're like looking at these things, you're like, oh, okay, this is like surreal. So I don't know, it's just really, really, really chill park. Great camping and hiking up in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but America's just so cool. We have so many. I think 62 national parks now. 61 with Freedom Arch and White Sands. I think it's 62 with White Sands out in New Mexico. But yeah, you can see caves, climb mountains, and I don't know. It's all beautiful.
That's great. So much travel inspiration here. To you listeners out there, I'm inspired to travel by Will. So thanks for sharing all those parks. That's super cool. So you shared with us your daily grind and things of that nature. What do you got, Will, going down later in the upcoming weeks, later this year on your daily grind?
Figuring out how to better teach my students, especially with this situation going on right now. Figuring out where the tennis officiating starts again, because I think the USTA just suspended all play through like May 3rd, and I'm guessing that will get extended even further. So, and luckily, that was just a side income, and I don't like calling it like a side hustle. I don't know, because it's not like I work it's not like I'm like hustling to do that job because I love it. But I mean, just making up for that side income somewhere else, or investing even more, finding out what different options to look at, what different stocks to look at, looking at the future of the stock market and seeing, okay, is that a good buy now? Is that company actually going to go bankrupt? Looking at different companies like that. And, working on my tennis game if I even can. And another way I've been, entertaining my time is I have a virtual reality headset for my PlayStation 4. I've been playing a game called Beat Saber. And whenever I play, my watch thinks I'm fencing. And you can burn up to like 3, 4, even 500 calories in an hour on that thing. But it's fun. It's like Guitar Hero, but you're just like swinging at blocks.
Oh, that's
and there's
cool.
like different cool songs and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It keeps you indoors, and it makes you feel less guilty if you walk outside to do anything, because going outside right now just feels weird. They're like, oh, the sun's hitting me. What's going on? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, just trying to not eat a whole pound of cashews a day. Just trying to stay somewhat in shape. For my summer body of not doing anything then either. We were looking at going up to Yosemite and Crater Lake this summer, just because just a nice little 1-week road trip. But we just don't want to plan anything right now, because we don't want to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Per se. So just want to take it easy here. Kylan's staying at home as a software developer, so we're not we're going out maybe once a week and standing in the Disneyland line at Costco waiting to go in. Trying to bring wet wipes everywhere, wiping stuff down, washing our hands as much as we can every day. Not trying to touch door handles, trying to social distance ourselves if we do have to do anything. But yeah, just trying to do our little part. Just not trying to make it a big deal. Just working on all the little deals.
Definitely, yeah. I would say the same thing too. Just kind of like hesitant on planning stuff right now in the summer or travels down the road, because a lot of stuff is very tentative at this time, or at the time of us recording this podcast episode. Yeah, Disneyland, you're experiencing it at Costco. But
yeah, like a good 50, 60, 100 line going in there.
Yeah, it's like me going to like Six Flags or just waiting out in the grocery line.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, yeah, our little parts can add up to make a big difference out there. So yeah, continue to stay safe, stay healthy, make the smart choices. out in your area, wherever you're listening to the Daily Grind at. So, Will, do you have a word of the day to motivate our listeners out there?
A quote that I don't want to say live by because I don't want to like live by words that I already printed, but do something today your future self will say thank you for. So, and I think I've kind of let that embody my whole life. Being a nice person today, trying to do something thoughtful for that one person, you see somebody post something and you're like, oh, maybe I should reconnect with them, or, oh, I haven't heard from that friend in a while. I'll just send them a text. Cause I mean, how much effort does a text send? And maybe that text could turn into a meaningful thought, which could, change that person's day around, finding that different lesson plan, creating new lesson plans for even next year, cause I don't want to teach the same stuff every year. That'd be so boring. So just making new things, finding new materials, just trying to make myself, learn. And I think that's a big thing too in anything is if you're complacent, that's when things get interesting in a bad way. Like I never want to be, I don't want to be like, oh, my life's terrible, I need to make it better. Like, no, I'm living a great life, but I also want to make it better. Like every single day, every single thing that I can. And that's what helped me, start reading books more, start trying to just learn a little more about things I'm interested in. So I don't know, just, learning how to cook better, not burning the rice in the pressure cooker, or, flipping the egg onto yourself or onto, the other, stove, onto the other burner.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just figuring out ways to, just be a better person in general, whether, that's through your job, through your hobbies, through just a random thing, through just being a genuinely good person.
Yeah, really great stuff, Will. Will, last but not least, if listeners want to get in touch with you after this podcast, how can they do so? Or
Probably
you.
the easiest way is on Twitter. I use it frequently for better or worse. It's at the Will Schultz, TheWillSchultz. So at the Will Schultz on Twitter. You can just direct message me on there if you have any questions, or tweet at me if you have, any education questions, any, investment questions, any tennis, any questions in general. If you need, a place, if you're like, oh, I would love to, have a restaurant, recommendation and, near that national park or Las Vegas, or, oh, I would like to know more about, dividend investing or, options or stocks or anything like that, or, different ways that you can teach something, or, just anything, just follow me, message me on there, team follow back. No, I'm just kidding, but I do follow back. It is a private account. So you do have to, request, but yeah, just any way I can help people out. I just feel better doing it, doing something today. I'm like, wow, I'm happy I did that for that person, or happy I did it for myself.
Great. Thank you, Will. And we will put Will's contact info in today's show notes. Thanks again for tuning in today's episode. And a big thank you again to Will for being on the podcast. When it comes to sharing my story, be sure to follow the Daily Grind at KJF Daily Grind on Instagram, and me, your host, at Kelly J. Lefty on Instagram or Twitter. Make sure to go to our podcast network website, ambiguousproduction.com, for more content such as UMABRO, the Sam Bustle podcast, and GDP, Goal Driven Professionals. Listen on Google, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. Until next time, my name is Kelly Johnson, and have a great day.
Thank you, Kelly.